Hello everyone, it's Natasha here from Treasure Books. So in previous videos when I've done some flip throughs through my journals, I have had a few people inquire about my image stencils. So today I'm going to show you exactly how I make my image stencils and how you can make your own at home without having to buy anything, just using the things that you have around the house. So everything that I'm going to show you has an alternative, and hopefully I'll remember as I'm going through the process, I'll remember to mention other alternatives. Like for example, let's say here I've used ink. Let's say you haven't got ink, you can use paint. Let's say you haven't got paint, you can make your own. You can use turmeric and water. You can use red cabbage, purple cabbage and water and make your own, dye solution. So really anything can be made at home for your craft and your art. So, all right, here we go. First thing that you would do is you would go onto Google and choose your image. So these are just the two that I've shown just to show you today. You can draw your own image if you can draw. I can't, but if you can, even better, because then it will be all yours. Otherwise, if you can't, you go on Google and you search for public domain images. That's really important because you don't want to use images that are copyrighted. So what I did is I typed in female face silhouette public domain. And then this website came up with all public domain images and came up with all of these female silhouette faces. And you can also put in clip art that makes the image simpler. For this one, I just wrote down in that public domain website. You can just start off on Google, like I said. I typed in butterflies, public domain images, and then this little image came up, and I really, really liked it. So I'm actually going to show you how to make this image today. Just one thing to keep in mind. When you're looking for images, you don't want to use images that have a lot of detail, that have a lot of lines, and that have full sections. So, for example, you will know, you'll see when I actually show you how I do it, you'll see what I mean. But let's say this face, for example, see how it's not a full closed line. So you have one line here that stops there, and then this line stops there, and then this line stops there. So if that was a full line all around the face, once you start cutting, you would actually cut out this whole section, and then you will have just a blank face. There'd be no eyes, no nose, no mouth. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and it will make sense when I show you how I do it. So for example, in this image, the whole black section is going to be cut out, and it will just leave me with this. With this image, only the little black, everything that's black needs to be cut out. Okay, so we'll come back to this one a little bit later. All right, so what you need is your image. You've got your image. Next thing you need is the actual stencil, the actual thing you're going to cut to make the stencil. So what I use is these. I actually found this in secondhand shop. They're overhead transparency films. So you don't have to have this. I'll show you alternatives in a second. But what you want is a film like this, but you don't want it to be too flimsy and you don't want it to be too thick, because then you can't cut it. So you want it to have some structure, which is why I just love this. And I actually bought it not knowing what I'm going to use it for, and I use it for my stencils and other things. I actually use it in my journals. I'll just quickly show you. I use it as my front page. It can be like a little dashboard. Anyway, so that's off topic. Let's go back to this. So you can use that if you have it, and that's what I'm going to use today. If you don't have that, you can use laminating pouches. They're very flimsy, so probably best to put it through a laminator first. If you haven't got that, you can use cereal box. There is a little bit of a problem with the cereal box, which I will tell you in a second. And lastly, I'm sure everyone's going to have this, and if you haven't been collecting it, you're going to start now if you want to make your stencils. Packaging. So a lot of things come in this sort of packaging, and I always keep all of it. For example, you know, a lot of toys come with little windows, and I usually keep those little windows because they're perfect for this sort of stuff, for stencils. They are a little bit harder to cut because they're a little bit thicker, but it is something that you can use. All right, so you've got your image and you've got your thing that you want to use, and I'm going to use this. So I'm just going to take this off just for now. We don't need that. So you've got your thing, you've got your image, okay? So next thing you want to do is you want to trace your image onto the acetate in order to be able to cut it out so that you know where you're cutting. So I'm not going to trace, I'm just going to show you this for demonstration purposes. I'm not going to trace the whole thing. I do have one already done, but you want to trace the image the best that you can. So as you can see, I'm not doing a great job. I can't draw, and apparently I can't trace either. But the thing is, once your image is cut out, it's definitely not going to look as perfect as the initial image. So, and the point is, that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, and I'll show you in a second. So you've traced your image, and I'm just going to show you this as well. This image, because it's a full black thing that's going to be cut out, I used my thin Sharpie. For something like this, you want to use a thick Sharpie, and you just draw a thick line. Okay. Next step is to cut, and I'll show you why I actually demonstrated this. So you need your craft mat, and you need a sharp craft knife, and then you just start cutting. So for this image, I would cut 2 lines, one on this side, obviously, you know, on the line, and one on this side, so that then the whole black line can come off. So then you have, let me just see, where did I put my, sorry about this, guys. I'm just going to show you here. I've got my stencils. Oh, here's the one. So that whole section has to actually come out. So you can't just cut one line. You have to cut 2 lines so that you can peel that section out. Okay. I hope that's making sense. These are some of my stencils. I'm going to show you them in a minute. Okay, so you've cut out your image. I'm just going to use my one that I've cut out over here. And that's the image. Okay. And then I'll just show you. You have your stencil. And then you can use, I usually use, for my journals, I use ink, any ink. If you're using, yes, I use ink because it's not as dark, I guess, on a page. But if you're doing like an art journal, you know, you can use paint. The only thing is when you use paint, it might seep through. So that's my image. So even though the cutting isn't as perfect, I mean, the image looks quite nice. Am I even in frame? I think I am. And that's my image. And that looks really nice in journals and pages as background. And you can write over the top of it. So I'll just show you some of these, my images that I have. So the important thing is when you're looking at images, you want block lines. So for example, you can see here, it's just really thick lines. And then here, the birds, they're all the lines are separate, right? And it's giving you an image. It's not a full image. But you can, I mean, this one is, so that one works. But that's the thing you have to keep in mind. What will you be cutting out? Let's take this for an example. If these lips were a full, if they were connected on the sides here, once I cut that out, that whole section is gonna come out, and then it would just be all black. So here you can see all of the lines. None of them are connected. If the eye was connected here, I would have no iris. The whole thing would just be one black thing. So I did have that problem with this image. Oh, the first one that I showed you. I don't think I cut it out properly when I did. So if you can see this eye here, only the black you cut out. The white is supposed to stay. But if you can see this white here, it's not connected to any of the other white. So naturally, when I cut it out, the whole section came out, right? So it looks a little bit weird. So I don't know if you can see here. It still works, but it's not perfect. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind when you're searching for images. And you can do this sort of thing with anything, really. But, I mean, you can do it for flowers or butterflies or trees or whatever, you know. But I thought it would be nice to do a face image because they're not as easy to find in shops, and you can play around with it a lot more, and it just looks really nice on a page, right? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I hope I've mentioned everything that I wanted to mention. I hope it all makes sense. If it doesn't, just ask me. Comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.